In this vlog, I'll be responding to Gabe. Gabe wrote some things in response to the video I did, pod layer criticism, and it appears he has had quite a few gripes for quite some time. So let's go ahead and get into it. It may take a bit to get through. Gabe has, I would say, almost a superpower when it comes to actually stacking stupid in such, tight little bundles. So here we go. Gabe says, I think to understand the issues some of us are having with you, you need to separate the observational pattern recognition that is your work from the way you've gone about promoting your ideas and how you've dealt with and treated the people around you. All right, so let's see here. Well, first of all, I am separating them because they are at cross purposes, being able to build a community and to rigorously pursue the discovery of the phenomenon. They are not able to be merged, and I accept that. And I accept that it was my mistake thinking that they could. But you need to accept that that's because of your lack of ability. Now, as far as separating the observational patterns from... It appears that you want me to spend a lot of time talking about something that's less important. And that's been an ongoing issue. So, from the beginning, I really want to be talking about the phenomenon, and a lot of other people, including yourself, want to be talking about other things. Even this right now. The fact that you're placing such an importance on whether my behavior is right or wrong, you really strike me as one of those regressive SJWs from college. You see all the college campuses acting goofy. Instead of actually wanting to get into the discussion of whether or not gender is a construct, you want to get into whether or not I've hate speeched you, whether or not I have disrespected you, I have hurt your feelings, I'm going about the wrong way, yada yada yada. That's what I'm getting from you. So no, I think the main thing is for you to realize how possessed you are. So go take a look at the video I did on the various possessions, and you have a lot of them. So we have a chasm between us as far as what we think is important to be really focusing on, and even on the things that we do focus on. Your whole vibe of how I'm supposed to be treating you is that I should be treating you as what? A buddy? We're researching. As what? Colleagues of some sort of similar level? We're not. Either I'm right about this or I'm wrong. And you're welcome to make your mind up yourself. But if I'm right about this, then yes, I'm far more advanced than you, and you need to learn from me, and I don't really need to learn from you in this regard. Not unless you have something to show me, of which I'm open to. But you never shown me that kind of talent, you haven't shown that kind of hard work, and you definitely haven't shown the ability to undistract yourself from lesser important things. You really seem like you are averse to discussing things that are the most important. So I have answered in various vlogs things that have been said about me in the personal conduct sphere. I haven't dodged anything. You may not agree with my answers, but I've addressed all of them. I see what you're saying, and I disagree in general. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. No, I didn't claim to be. Doesn't mean I didn't make mistakes. I did. I owned up to those. I'm going to make more mistakes going forward. So it seems more like this is a round of virtue signaling and trying to beat on me because you just don't like your place in the order of things. Well, that's not my problem. He says, from watching the video, I did not get the impression that you understand Demas's grievances on any kind of deep emotional level. Well, then you're a moron. You're an idiot. You have very poor listening comprehension skills. This is set from pod layer and mojo phenomenon. This is just life. You have very bad listening comprehension skills. I've always scored very, very high in those things, so I know what it means to actually hear something. Now, I can hear something and disagree with it, but that doesn't change what I heard. For you it does, because you're weak. You're a weak-minded person. You're weak-minded, weak-hearted, you're just weak. So if you watch the video, and you all can go watch it, I did understand his grievances on a deep emotional level because I pretty much said them verbatim. I said what his grievances were, and then I said how I can understand how he can feel that way while not agreeing. So trying to claim that I didn't get it when I mentioned it more than once his feelings of regret, of being overly controlled, of being shut down, of losing his shine because of me. I mean, all that kind of, I get it. So right now, I'm doing it now. I get his grievance. And I get how if you find yourself in that state, that could be very, very upsetting. So I get what he's talking about. I get how he can be very, very upset. I don't agree. Again, you sound like one of those college SJW people. I did hear his argument. I stated what his argument was. Clearly, anyone who has a brain can go watch the video and see that I clearly understood his argument. And even understood his pain while not agreeing to it. You want me to just agree with you, and I don't. So you can get upset with that. That's fine. And if you actually said, oh, I don't like that you don't agree with us, fine, we'd actually have a real discussion. But this is the kind of crap you do. That's why I have no respect for you. Because you're actually trying to say, he's not even listening, he's not even listening, just shut up and listen. That's what you sound like. Okay, well, I did listen. And you can see by how I responded, I clearly understood all the arguments made at me. And I was even sympathetic to the pain, although I did not agree to the contextualizing of why that pain is there, or how severe it is, or how it's my fault. So if you go to like a courtroom, you're basically saying, I didn't hear the brief. I didn't get actually the accusations. I do. I don't understand how a person who feels that this is what went down in the scenario feels aggrieved. I get it. I got what you said. I got how you believe from your point of view you're aggrieved. I don't agree. And you're just going to be upset that I don't agree. And that's fine. We don't have to agree. But this is weak. Because I don't agree, you're going to try and say I didn't get it. What, in an intellectual way? Clearly I did. What, in an emotional way? Yeah, I get emotionally what he's feeling and why he feels it. I just don't agree. He says, you were trying to make sense of it through a purely intellectual lens, and thus were employing a lot of rationalization hamstring to explain away the issues he and others have with your conduct and MO in general. No, wow, you just look... This is completely stupid. And any of you who read what he wrote and went, yeah, you're stupid too. And you can separate Baudelaire and Mojo all out of it. This is just straight up academic reading and writing, grammar, logical cohesion. This is just stupid. All right, so rationalization hamstring. Because that's implying that I dived into some sort of hole and ran around in circles and then said I addressed things. No, I didn't. I addressed everything that Edema said head on, like a boss, like you are incapable of doing. So no, I did not do rationalization hamstring. You're doing intellectual dodging. That's what you're doing. You're dodging how I dismantled that email, because that email was stupid. So, is it hamstring? He said that I am lying about how Baudelaire came about. And I'm saying, no, he's lying. That's hamstring? He's actually trying to tell me how I should or shouldn't be seeing the phenomenon and conducting myself, while he says you can't see the phenomenon in one part of an email and then says he can in another part of the email. That's completely relevant to the conversation, you moron. If you don't know that, you don't have to agree with me, but you just look stupid when you're actually saying I'm dodging when I hit every point. I hit every point. I dodged nothing. Next, purely intellectual. No, I expressed emotional regret over things. Just not everything you wanted me to. So again, anyone watching that who is not biased would say that I didn't dodge things. I answered them all. There was no hamstring or trying to avoid. I just didn't agree to everything you said. And I was trying to come from it from a true, authentic, emotional place. Again, I just don't agree with you. But again, it sounds like, you know, the regressives, when they actually are talking to people who are sympathetic to their cause. I mean, take Jordan Peterson. If you listen to Jordan Peterson is actually quite sympathetic to the plight of the transgender community. But because he doesn't agree to all their talking points, he not only is intellectually dodging, they accuse him that all the time, which is funny because they are generally all intellectually his inferiors, and they accuse him of not being sympathetic. No, he is sympathetic, but his sympathy takes him in different directions. It makes him have a different context of situation. But they routinely say he actually is not as smart as people think. And these are people who can barely make sentences. These are people like you all are making just ridiculous errors in just general talking, making points, making stands. You're making your very poor performance. Trying to actually accuse me of having a poor performance. No, you can accuse me of being an asshole who doesn't agree with you, fine. But these make you look silly because they're just demonstrably not so. Seems to me like you're the one who did the rationalization hamstring. Because apparently, because it is known this guy's an asshole. We know that. No debate. We don't need debate. We just know he's an asshole. So that's why you're not going to address the fact that Demas made a horrible logical, I would call it a fallacy, really. He actually made a power play, hoping that people like you would be stupid. He said, you can't be sure of the phenomenon because no one can. By the way, I'm sure I have friends that are like this. That's a big deal. That's just stupid in general, so you should question this person's, degree of faculties or how adult they are. It is directly related to the subject that we're talking about, of which we disagree on, and he tried to get two sides of an argument in the argument he's making. All relevant. You're not even going to touch that. Seriously. I give some other people a little more credit than you, who were able to look at the email, who even disagree with me on certain things, but can still acknowledge that was really poorly done. That did not look right. You're not even going to mention that, and you're going to say that me mentioning it is rationalization hamstring. No, that's just stupid sophistry word salad trying to make you feel smart when you're a dummy. He says, you are still operating from your omni-theory frame, i.e. pretending with the utmost degree of hubris that you are the authority on everything related to the human condition and even metaphysics in general, albeit in a manner that's quite toned down from the audacious way you behaved 3 to 6 years ago. Well, I'm going to be getting more audacious because I am the authority. And you saying that you can see it so little means that, yes, I'm at least as much the authority over you as I said before, and now it's going to be more so. Because you're actually not being so shy about how stupid you are and how little you've advanced, and I actually no longer have to, carry your dead weight, so I'll be accelerating at a much more rapid and enjoyable pace. He says, and thus operating from this mindset, you explain away the less than flattering aspects of your conduct with countless end justifies the means rationalizations. Whether or not you were consciously aware of it, you came off as treating members of your team like pawns on a game board. No, gosh, you're so weak. I treated you like people who are actually on an elite research project, and you're not. Oh, the research project is elite. You are not elite. You've never demonstrated anything that shows you actually have what it takes. And I pretended that maybe you did. That's on me. I take ownership for that mistake. But no, I try to treat you as people who are up for the task. That pushing around you felt, that was me pushing you towards greatness. You fell out. That's what happened. You fell out. All right, so no, if I was treating you like pawns, I would have actually used you more. I would not have been so giving with my time. I would not have been so understanding of your laziness. I would not have been so understanding of how easily distracted you get. I would not be so understanding of how you whinge out over purifications. But I was, more than I should be. But I was pretending that you were elite. I was pretending you were a serious seeker. I was pretending that you were acting as you should, given the situation. Gabe says, I never got the vibe that you were really understanding of their own emotional and aspirational needs. This is a research project and change the world. Certain people who have certain abilities are up for it. I'm looking for those people, and anyone who shows they might have an inkling, I was going to try to train them up as best I could. I've never wanted to do therapy. I said that from the beginning, yet lots of you keep trying to get that from me, keep trying to get this a life coach, and I don't want to do that. I want to do research. I want you to be strong for yourselves. You want me to be strong for you. You want me to do everything for you. Solve this case for you, give you confidence for it, everything. That's not my job. You think it should be, but it's not. Again, you really sound like one of those college snowflakes. Like you seem to expect this to all be laid out for you. Like I'm trying to teach you STEM, and as a part of it, maybe we'll go over biological evolution. And in biological evolution, that may have a lot to do with, sexuality. It may have to do with, various things of aggression. Lots of things that have to do with like the human condition. But I'm teaching you what that means. And yes, if I'm like cutting edge on evolutionary biology, then I do have a lot to say on human condition stuff that relates to. But that's what I'm teaching you. And you're like, I don't feel this course is like sympathetic to like my lived experience. The data doesn't give a shit about your lived experience. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you ever thought that that was my job for you. I should have cut that off sooner if you thought that. Your job and my job is ourselves to go look at the world and get better, to observe, to process, to move forward, to grow. That's all. You're putting a lot of responsibility of me doing your life for you. I'll just give one example to kind of give you an idea of this. And I'm not doing this to pick on, Mike S., but this is just kind of classic that I got in general. It was the reason he moved on. And I was totally fine with this. And I don't have ill will towards him, but he felt the same thing. I was not understanding of his emotional and aspirational needs. If what I'm saying is true, and it is, but you don't have to agree to that, but you do have to agree to that if you want to work with me. Yeah, because otherwise you're just a waste of time. He thought that I was, when talking with him, wasn't talking enough about his hobbies, things he was interested in. Can we talk about this or that? No, this research project is the most important thing as far as I know. That's why this whole apparatus of pod layer has been set up, and we have a long way to go. We still have a long way to go, and you want to actually talk about, you know what, can we talk about jazz music some? Can we talk about like other this and that? No! Well, I don't feel you're really supporting my emotional and aspirational needs. Well, then go over to Enneagram and see if it helps you out. That's not my problem. And that thing, as an example, that you've all done that to some degree. You all have, where trying to actually make this something that it's not, and I've resisted that continuously. If you don't get it, that's your problem. If you actually feel that if I have what I say I have, and that's the only question here, if this is actually the discovery I think it is, then you should be all about trying to figure it out and make use of it for yourself, or you're like, I don't see it, and move on. But this hang on to me to coddle you, that's not my job. In fact, it gets in the way of my job. I've said this. He says, from my own impression, it seems like Demas feels like he pissed away a large chunk of his adult life on promoting a series of erroneous assumptions you asserted as infallible gospel. So much dumb there. Let's see how we get through this. Okay, first of all, your own impression. Gabe, you really got to stop doing that. Acting like you've done something, you haven't done something. Okay, that's what I said. I said, I get it, Demas. You feel like you pissed away your life. You feel it was a waste of time. You were done wrong. You did a lot of work and various things, and your reputation was put on the line. You got little value in return. So I also got the impression. Ooh, do we both get credit for actually a reading comprehension? Jackass. Okay, so yes, I think everyone who actually has a third grade education got the impression that Demas feels he pissed away a large chunk of his life dealing with pod layer. Okay, so I hope you don't want credit for that, like you're insightful. Next, the assumptions are not erroneous, in my view. He feels they are. That's fine, but that's on him. We're going through a scientific discovery. I feel it's going somewhere. He felt it was going somewhere too for a time. Now he feels it's not. That's on him. I did not hoodwink him. I'm a true believer. I'm still a true believer. So, we just don't believe the same things. We did believe it for a period of time, and now he feels, he messed up. I did not trick him. I believe everything I said. I still believe it. However, I did claim there are certain things that are there. For example, if we want to argue about exactly what's going on, the mojo phenomenon, this and that, I'm open to that and have been. I have, forum threads for, reread requests. I've put the 5 degrees of pod layer practice. I put a pod layer patch out there for being able to integrate with other kinds of spiritual models that I originally was like, I don't want to do that at all. But I was like, okay, people seem to need that, and that seems like maybe it could be possible. So I have actually adjusted as needed that made sense. The mojo phenomenon is there. It has a closed kind of logical structure that is balanced, and it is influencing all of life to me in a way that clearly says it is the most powerful, pervasive influence in the human condition. Is that infallible? So far. I've seen nothing in the data and nothing from your pathetic attempts to criticize that actually shakes me from that. So, infallible gospel? No, I don't know if I go with that. I would say that it is the leading, guiding light of where humans are going for their foreseeable future. I believe that. Now, do you think that changes because I purified? That because I purified that, aha, it wasn't infallible? We're getting closer, in my opinion. So for me, the gospel has gotten stronger. If the gospel you mean by observing, yeah, I'm observing more, so I feel better about that than ever. You all seem shaken because you can't read. I'm telling you, improve your microscope, improve your telescope, and you'll see more. And you can't do it. You don't have the power. You don't have the effort. You don't actually disentangle yourself from problems in the world that are leaning on you too much. You're just possessed, riddled with possessions. And now you're actually trying to say whether or not something is true or not. Okay, well, we just don't agree. But you're making it sound like I no longer believe. You keep trying to actually put like I used to believe and now I don't, or I never believed and I was tricking people. None of these things are the case. The case is I believe it, you don't to a large degree, and we are at an impasse. Okay, all right, so he says, so at this point I want you to entertain this possibility. I'm going to present you with two positions you can simulate as both being true for the sake of this mental exercise. All right, trying to strain yourself, Gabe. I've seen your attempts, all of your attempts to actually do what if, speculating. You're not strong. All right, so number one, you are observing patterns that do in fact exist and do correlate at least somewhat with aspects of the human psyche and experience. Yep. Two, you behaved like a total douchebag at times throughout the history of this project due to whatever underlying reasons. Both can be true at the same time. Okay, what is this? What is this nonsense? Is this what you learned and could do in college? Is this how they made you weak and stupid? Okay, let's say they both are the same. They both exist at the same time. And you're really whinging on about that when this is on the table? Okay, next. I've not acted like a total douchebag in just general. I've been trying to do heroic things, but it has rubbed people the wrong way. But these words you use, you sound stupid. Total douchebag. Okay, anyone who's actually observed me doing what I do throughout the years knows that I am hard charging. So you could say that I have been overly dominant, domineering, I've been pushy, I have been intolerant, I have been unsympathetic to people's weaknesses, whatever. A total douchebag just makes it sound like I just do it 'cause. Due to whatever underlying reasons. What are underlying reasons? No, we have a job to do, people. I'm pushing for that job to get done. I've been clear about that from the beginning, and you guys can't handle it. That's the reason. And I push you hard, harder than you can take. So there's lots of adjectives you could use to describe that aren't douchebag. Uncaring, maybe. I don't think I'm uncaring, but that would make more sense. This is just you trying to stick labels on me. What am I like a Nazi? Seriously, you're like a total douchebag. That means nothing. Give a behavior. Are you talking about how I ignored people for long periods of time? Is that being a douchebag? Or is that actually being, if anything, maybe myopic? Maybe being too insulated? There's a lot of words, but that doesn't make sense. Is it because when people ask me, can't we do more of this stuff that's extraneous? I'm like, no. Is it because people are like, I think this and this, and I ask, well, what have you done with the data? Well, no, just listen to what I have to say. I'm like, I'm not listening to you because you're not qualified. You don't have anything worthwhile to bring to the conversation, not even looking at the data. Is that douchebag? No, it's dismissive. Is it properly dismissive? Is it overly dismissive? Well, we can debate that. But the douchebag, okay. Why don't you just say, well, I guess Demas does later on. You're evil. Really, these words you throw around, you're just whinging. You're whinging at someone being different than you, who has a strong personality and is going to go their own way regardless of what you do. And I've been doing that from the beginning. Okay. And he says, you did imply in the vid that you finally come to the conclusion that you have no business life coaching, much less pretending to be a spiritual guru. But again, you rationalize this position in terms of self-interest, not genuine concern for people's feelings and overall well-being. Man, Did you people actually read this stuff and think it sounded good? Okay, here we go. First of all, the reason I don't want to do the spiritual guru thing is you can't handle it. Me telling you what your mojo is in a way that is based on data is a service. Because no one else is doing that. No one else can do that right now. Now, if I actually realized that my methodology, through being improved, saw that the answer is actually more correctly here, that was still a benefit. It was a benefit to, for example, like say the females in the community that I thought were Nijai. A lot of them thought that they were something like a Naiji. So I actually broke them of that spell that they are objective, and that's a thing you can see, and they have Jai and Z, and that's a thing you can see. That was a favor. That was a massive favor in the history of humans that's never been given, not until I did it. Next, I corrected that and said, oh, but it's not Ni with V, it's actually a Ni with Vi. It's not Ni with Vi, it's Ni with V. So they're actually Z Ni, not Ni Jai. That's an additional favor. Okay, I'm no longer me doing this kind of thing because it seems that the vast majority of you have psyches that are too weak. You can't handle the first gift, and the upgrade to that gift you see as worse still. Okay, so that's the problem. Not that I am not qualified, I am too qualified. I am in the future. I'm operating at a higher level that even for you to touch it freaks you out. And then when there's like movement and improvement, that freaks you out too. So no, I don't want to work with people who freak out over every little thing that is progress. And then I did express regret that I hurt anyone. I didn't want to do that, despite the fact that there are things that could have been different on both sides. I expressed regret. And I don't really care about my reputation that way other than the data being clear and people in the future being able to see that I pulled it off. So, no, I believe I expressed clearly that my main concern is being able to pull off the job my spirits have, placed in my hands to do, and I can't be having anything that's going to distract me from that. Now, I'm not saying that sounds any better and probably sounds still unsympathetic to your ears, but at least get what I feel correctly. I don't care about my reputation among modern humans. You, typology, all the news agencies, anyone, I don't care. I care about the data because that's what's going to prove or disprove my legacy. He says, as you stated yourself, your mind and body is plagued by a litany of energetic imbalances. Until you go about rectifying those imbalances, at least to some degree, you are in no position to offer any kind of authoritative advice on how people should live their lives. Fuck, you're stupid. I mean, really, you are a stupid human. All right, so let's go through this. A litany of energetic imbalances. No, I have a litany of overexertions that cause me to have breakdown areas. So, by what you're saying, that a person who is the best pilot of a certain ship or whatever, and they're actually flying the ship and they're given like recon information from where their ship can survey that other people can't go, since no one else can do it at their level, they should have actually brought the ship back to rest a long time ago, but they're not. They're using various extra fuel cells in the ship instead of going back and refueling that may be not as easy to use. They are shaking at the wheel, their grip is tired, their eyes are getting blurry, they're doing various things, slap themselves in the face to keep going. Is that energetic imbalances? No, that's overexertion. But that's wrong only if there's someone else who could step in and do the same job, in which case you should definitely step aside. I've been trying to train some of you to do that. You haven't been up to it, so I have to keep going. So I will continue to have these energetic overexertions as long as I have to do it. So you're actually saying that every human who's ever had to overexert themselves into massive states of ongoing keening in any field because they're the only one who can actually do that job at that level? Okay, so I'm curious, was it like the Battle of Midway? All those pilots that went up and saved, like the history we have right now that you enjoy, United States and so forth, wouldn't be here. Okay, if they didn't do that. They had to fly like around the clock because they had less planes and less pilots. So, in fact, they had very few planes, but they had even fewer pilots. So they actually had to keep repairing the planes. While the pilot was out, pilot comes back, just jumps out of one fucked up plane and jumps into a new sort of fresh one and flies back up there again. That's called heroism, you jackass. That's a hero. That's a boss hero. And you're saying, oh, I bet you were they low on sleep? Were their lipids low? Should they stop actually saving the fucking country so they can get their lipids better? Man, you're dumb. Next, you're in no position to offer any kind of authoritative advice on how people should live their lives until I fix myself. Okay, so let's say you're the best person at anatomy, but for whatever reason, maybe you just have illnesses from where you grew up, or maybe even you actually have a horrible diet and you're terribly out of shape, but you know the human anatomy better than anyone else. You're not supposed to be listened to. You should not teach anatomy until you have a body fitness level that is equal to or better than any student. Is this what they train you in that snowflake colleges you come from? Wow. Again, I'm curious. Leave Podler, Mojo, and me out of it. Are you not seeing what I'm pointing out here? Are you not seeing how stupid this is? And everyone who read this, are you seeing what I'm saying? I'm saying now, because what I'm saying right now is like straight up just logic of the real world. Did you not notice this when you read it? Are you not noticing now that I'm pointing it out? How hopeless are you? How much of a pack of sheeple are you going to be for the rest of your lives? With this level of intellectual activity, I'm embarrassed that I actually associated you at all as much as I did over the years. Ugh. Yeah. He says, in short, from his perspective, which is limited, obviously, you are seeing very interesting and potentially profound patterns, which a few of us also see. Okay, this goes back to the video I did on prioritization. You're saying that you think that I may be seeing very interesting and potentially profound patterns that a few of you are actually seeing. And you're yammering on about this other stuff? Okay, your sense of priorities and mine are very, very different. Separate that I don't agree with your assessment of my conduct. But I'm just going to stop you short here. You're a weak jackass. You're telling me that you yourself believe I may be onto a very interesting and potentially profound patterns of humans that a few of you can actually see. And this is what you're going on about. You want to bail. You want to have this responsibility taken off of you, and you want to have the fact that being able to read Mojo is extremely important at the minimum for moving human consciousness forward, and you're not very good at it. And you want to stop feeling that feeling. Again, so let me get this straight. Let's say I am a DNA researcher and I found the gay gene, which obviously has a lot to do with the human condition and what things are or aren't as a baseline. What if I got divorced? What if prior to this I've never even met a gay person? What if I've on Facebook I actually just trolled out one day? I've never done these things, but let's say that's the case. Are you saying that the DNA research that may possibly have a very interesting and potentially profound pattern regarding the human condition that a few other people can see? I am so glad to be rid of you. Wow, I cannot believe I was actually carrying this level of just indefensibly heavy stupid. I mean, just a huge cargo plane of dead weight stupid. He says, your monumental hubris is the raging bull that needs to be sacrificed. You need to rein in your ego lest your discovery will go nowhere beyond a colorful poster hanging on your bedroom wall. All right, this gets into the idea that I need a lot of people to agree with me for this to go forward. The idea that anyone in my lifetime has to agree to this for this to go forward. No, you moron. If I'm right, and I am, then I need to collect the data, large enough a collection, and cleanly enough organized by quality categories so the future humans can have it to work with and know I did it. That's it. And probably they're going to have some computer do it. Probably some of them in the future will be talented enough to see there's something to what he's doing, and then they will train on it or go get machines and realize that I'm correct. So, I'm curious, do you think that I will have failed if I actually solve the riddle and put it down in a form that future humans can use if all I have is posters back here? There's going to be posters back here, by the way, I think. I'm very excited. So, yeah, that sounds very fun to me. So my ego is going to get stronger now because I don't need you. In fact, I'm tired of actually you thinking you have much of a say in this when you don't. In fact, it seems like you've always been bothered by how little you have to say in this at the talent level, work ethic, and level of disentangled life you lead. He says, the only world that you should be saving at this point is your own. Well, I'm already saved from being as stupid as you are, and I'm going to save myself more tomorrow. He says, as the old saying goes, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Ugh. You should throw around buzzwords and cliche things. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. I may be wrong about the phenomenon. I don't believe that I am. But based on that, everything else I'm saying is sound logic. This is just stupid. I mean, this is just by anyone who actually has a brain and is not biased can just read, wow, this person doesn't make arguments very well. So you've already wrecked yourself. Anyone who can't see that, you've wrecked yourself too. Because people in the real world who are badasses would look through this and go, well, I don't know that Thomas guy, he might be an insane asshole. But this is a stupid line of reasoning by butthurt people. Case in point, he says, we know that you were posting on MBTI forums back in 2008 and that you had run a local Jungian meetup group not long after that. Yet, not that long ago, you were making the claim that Jungian theory has absolutely no influence over your own. We now know this to be patently untrue, and you're not fooling anyone when claiming otherwise. Seriously, it's a gift. You have a gift, Gabe. This is like some sort of a Russian doll, which is like stupid within stupid within stupid. Okay, so if you actually hang out with actual real-world badasses, I have, in different fields. Regardless of if they're surfers or scientists doing lasers or cops doing undercover narcotics, they just don't think like this. As a base stance, they don't think like this. Let's start with this. You're acting like you did a gotcha because you're saying that you saw me posting on MBTI forums and stuff. Yeah, I know. I've never hidden that. It does not break down my narrative in any way. It is part of my narrative. Wow. Next, claim that Jungian theory has no influence over your own. It doesn't. That doesn't mean I can't speak their language, seeing what they're working on. Chinese face reading has no bearing because I saw what I saw without them. That doesn't mean when I look at Chinese face reading, I'm like, I think you're saying this. I'm thinking this. Oh, so now Chinese face reading is influencing you and you're not giving it credit. No, I'm correcting its work. Chakras also did not influence my work. I came to chakras after my spirits already gave me things. And I was looking at the chakras trying to figure out how that made sense to what I was being told. What? All right, so you're saying that basically this is your story. Everyone, really, I'm going to try to help you all out. Okay, my dad actually was a serious investigator with a law degree, so I actually have some idea how these things go. You're saying that you got me by doing some awesome journalistic investigation of some shit that is out for all to see, and I've mentioned myself many times over the years, so I have no problem talking about it, and it doesn't hurt my narrative. You're now saying that I was actually under the Jungian thing and then moved on and said that it was my own thing. That's one interpretation. Here's another interpretation. Oh, by the way, what kind of track record do you have for that on me? None. That doesn't make sense with how I've conducted myself in any other area. Now, let's talk about how I've conducted myself and how there might be an alternative interpretation to this. I have told you all over the years, and anyone who knows my past will back this up, you all should know this about me already. I, despite being an extremely sensitive person, am drawn like a moth to flames to ideological fisticuffs. So, I've been debating people in my family. I've been debating people in schools I went to, religious leaders. I went to various religious places, and I went in, sat, and saw their course. And then I argued with them. Sometimes I'd argue in my head just to myself. Other times I'd actually pipe up a little bit. Other times I'd have full-on, blowout arguments in their place. I've said this many times over the years. When I was engaging with Typology Town, how combative was I? Most people thought I was too combative. Okay, but you're seeing a pattern of behavior here, dummy. You don't think it's likely that I actually called out to the Jungian community for the following two reasons. Maybe they have some talent that will be useful because perhaps they have seen something, nowhere near what I can, because they still think introversion, extroversion is a primary energy field, so clearly they're fucking incompetent. But since they're talking that language at all, more than other people, I thought maybe there might be some talent in there. And I want to fight them. Okay, everyone, can you read this person here? Do you really think I actually invited typology people over because I wanted to learn from them? I wanted to see what they could offer as far as competition. I competed with them. I was calling them over to see, what do you have? Why do you say that? You think you're an INFP? Why do you say that? So, you who apparently are stepping in, because what you just done here, you fool. Separate Podler and Mojo out of it. What you just done here is this is a classic detective assertion. You're working a crime case. And you're now saying, you got me. You got me because of your singular explanation of what happened, which really doesn't hold up too well when you look at my behavior through the decades of my life that you haven't seen and the years on camera you have seen. I like taking on people and seeing what they got. That's how I get stronger. Okay, so that is a very easy alibi to your accusation. And there's lots of data and lots of public record of me behaving in a psychological manner that says I have a predilection for actually challenging ideological authorities, for calling them out, going to their churches, going to their temples, going to their meetup groups, going to parties, and while I'm there, I'm bored out of my fucking mind. I hate going to parties, so I try to find anyone who I can have a high-level conversation with, and often when you do that, even the person who's friendly, there'll be some person over there who's like, I know, I heard you talk about Buddhism over here, now let me defend Buddhism, and then we go at it. And I consider that to be a more productive night than, what most people do at parties. Okay, so anyone looking at me, do I not look like that kind of person? Have I not conducted myself like that kind of person since you've known me? All right, so in a court, you fucking moron, you have a single answer for what is going on, of which there is easily another answer for it that has a lot more on-record data and psychological profile that makes sense. So, way overreaching. Then you say, patently. You gotta stop using these big words, think you're smart. Patently means, like in the terms you're using it here, locked in, done deal, it is known, game over. Really? Okay, I can tell you right now that any detective of any agency, anywhere, who's good at what they do, would not want you on their team. And if they were stuck with you on their team, everything they said, you said to them, they would question. Every assertion you made to them, they were like, that's nice, I'm gonna have to go check his work. Because apparently, he looks at a guy like this who had typology meetups, of which Demas himself said he was actually impressed by me, by how I slapped them around. So, it's on record, even by Demas, that I was slapping them around and correcting their work. He got off. When they came in and said, I'm a such and such, I'm like, no, you're not. Your eyes this and that. And he's like, damn. Okay, so I was fighting them on record by people even on your side. Your side's my witnesses. Wow. Amazing. I wonder if Demas would take that back too. That'd be hard though, because I think he said it on camera more than once. All right. Patently. You actually are going to say to your fellow detective team here, yeah, I closed this case. Done deal. First of all, awesome journalism on me. I found this secret out about him he tried to hide, that he did typology groups early on. Ooh. No secret there. Next, the only reason that could possibly be is because he was trying to figure out his theory and use that as the groundwork to move forward. And that's so sure, patently. This is patently done. Locked down. There can't be another answer. Okay, if you morons, if you weaklings can possibly do this, detach from me, from Podler, from Mojo, from your dislike of it, from your unease of what it might mean or not mean, and recognize this was foolish, was weak, and that no one who's actually real in the world would operate this way. So you can actually say that, I'm crazy, I'm an asshole, blah, blah, blah. I'm operating at elite standards, right? Because by the thing, but you're not elite. I've known elite detectives. My dad was a elite detective in 3 of the most elite agencies in the fucking world. You're not elite. Accept this. You're weak. And now you're actually trying to actually make arguments like you're some sort of detective badass? You're a fool, and anyone who fell for that, you're a fool too. Maybe makes you feel better because now it's cool to ding on me. That is bad thinking. That is biased thinking in any investigation. Any investigation. And now you think you're going to out-investigate me on what is going on with things, and therefore what behavior should or should not flow from it. When that's how you do your investigation. He says, I'm not going to claim you were willfully deceptive about this. Perhaps you've deluded yourself into believing you had this thing figured out before coming to contact with typology. I did have it figured out. How else am I correcting their work? Demas was there for that. I corrected their work early. It wasn't like it took a while. I mean, when they came in, I was correcting their work. And? So, clearly I think that I actually have it. So, just like when I first saw typology, I first saw it in high school. I'm not saying I didn't see it in high school, I did. We had some sort of evals lake, I think. I think that was pretty standard. And? I thought it was foolish. I thought it actually didn't capture things well enough because I'm coming from the 1024 infinity lens and beyond and coming down to this programming level. I was working at spirituality and story level, human motif level, actually working cases properly level, and then this came up as part of it. Okay. So yeah, I think I had it ahead of time. Just like I thought I had it ahead of time before I met Chinese face reading. I was like, oh look, they have 3 zones too. If you so indeed have fragmentary amnesia, then there could be some truth to that. I do have amnesia. I have huge amnesia in my past life, and I still have lots of issues with short-term memory problems as well. However, none of that actually makes me think that a situation that has at least 2, if not 3 or more explanations can only have one explanation that you came up with from your research that, you saw this thing that I was somehow hiding. Yeah, I'm still able to actually work cases properly. Yeah, you with apparently a full memory faculty apparently cannot do logic. You apparently don't know how the real world works. So yeah, I have issues, but the important things I actually can do. He says, I certainly think there is something to this visual cue phenomenon. Good, you're not a complete jackass. But how do we know that it perfectly lines up mathematically with the MBTI cognitive function model PL theory was obviously based on? Obviously? Okay, so this is why I correct their work on their reads, which they do very little. This is why I say their primary dichotomy is wrong. So every time a mathematician corrects a earlier math work, they're basing it on that work. All right? Even if they get different results, different premises, different speculations, different powers of prediction, it's still okay. And then lines up mathematically. That right here. How do you say this and not get crucified at these colleges you were trained at? How do you know that perfectly lines up mathematically? How is subjective objective is not the primary dichotomy and anyone thinks that is a fool lining up perfectly? It's directly contradicting their primary assertion. And if you boil Jungian stuff down from the archetypes and the personality types and the cognitive functions and blah, blah, if you start at the core of it, it's introversion, extroversion. That's the one thing that's traveled the furthest in all of science and psychology outside of the Jungian circles. And I'm saying that's wrong. And you're saying that pod layer theory on human design lines up perfectly? Is that what you think when two images or 2 objects in geometry go over each other and they actually have some similar lines, but actually they're fundamentally divided differently, balanced differently, give different numerical results? I mean, seriously, patently, perfectly lines up. These are simply erroneous statements made to make your argument sound better. How did you not catch this? How did anyone reading this not catch this? You're addled. Because you're modern humans, so your capabilities aren't what I need. I'll need the future humans. But still, you're not stupid. You actually have baseline intelligence. So maybe you can't actually see the Mojo phenomenon or comprehend it as I need you to. You should be able to know that one model that is contradicting the primary premise of another model cannot, by definition, be lined up perfectly. Stop using words like patently and perfectly when you don't use them correctly, because all a person has to do is go ding and move on. You make yourself very easy to dismiss when you do this. All right, some little tidbits here. He says in another area, I literally had to SMDH every time he mentioned her, LOL. So I think SMDH is probably something like, slap himself on the head. And her, he's referring to Nexi. So again, like other people have done this, you are mocking a muse. Wow. Do you know how many great thinkers in a great variety of fields have had great accomplishments by having very intimate psychological connections to their voices, their imaginary friends, their spirit guides, whatever you want to call it? You just mocked almost all shamanic tradition. Was that your intention? You just mocked most of the top artists that have lived. Was that your intention? You're ridiculous. This is the statement of a ridiculous person. Either if you think that, wow, you're just totally hopeless, and if you're thinking or saying this just because you're angry at me right now, then even me being a little worked up now, yeah, I'm still making solid points. I'm not actually going to make, like right now, if I, saw that you did something, Gabe, where you're talking about your musical tastes and how they inspire you to do better homework or this or that. I don't like how you've treated me here, Gabe, and I think you've made a lot of errors and a lot of inappropriate attacks on me. However, I'm not going to make fun of you getting off on music and how it moves you. Because, and this is what you don't get, that would make me stupid. In trying to actually attack you, I'll be attacking myself, because anyone's like, what kind of asshole moron actually attacks someone for, being moved by a musical artist who has voices that they hear in their head? Okay, do you think George Martin does not actually have intense relationships with the characters he writes about? So every time he talks about Aria or someone like that as if they're a real person, do you slap yourself then too? I'm curious, everyone. Am I doing rationalization hamstring again? No, I'm dismantling another stupid series of comments by a stupid person. He says, when in reality, any man who must say, I am the king, is no true king. You and your fucking cliches. Is this what you do? You people who go to these snowflake colleges, is you just, speak in poster mottos? All right. You are aware that as nice as that sounds, history does not support that statement. In fact, history supports that if you do not declare yourself, you're never going to get there. There are a few exceptions, but if you're going with trends, yeah, you can do that all you want. You have to declare. In fact, there have been many times in history where a noble person was like, well, if it comes my way, it is meant to be, but if it doesn't come my way, it's not meant to be. Right? That's what you're saying, dummy. And guess what? Their advisors throughout history, pretty much all of them, every vizier and counselor and consigliere ever says you have to declare yourself. Otherwise, the populace won't know you're there and they won't know your will to play. If they don't know you're there, nothing's going to happen. And if they don't know your willingness to take that role, they will not support you. So, again, separate Podlair, separate Mojo, separate your dislike for me. Everyone, do you know that's stupid? He just said some blah, 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 blah. And you're like, yeah, that's right, that applies to coach and he does that too. And not recognize that history does not support that statement. People would like to believe, like in movies, that the person just goes off and just does their own thing, cracking rocks at a quarry and, praying to whatever 3 times a day, blah, blah, blah. And they just finally go, you must be king. Yeah, because that's how shit happens in history. He says, wait, that's also how Carl Jung cultivated many of his own insights through dreams. But I suppose he at least didn't try to pass those ideas off as empirical data. I either am seeing what I'm seeing or I'm not. But if I am seeing it, it's empirical data because it's visually observable, which you said yourself. By your own admission, there's likely something to what I'm doing, and what it is based on visual recognition. You are aware that visual observation recognition is empirical data. Okay, so Carl Jung didn't present as empirical data because he didn't have any. He could have, if he was strong as I am, in that he broke down that there are 8 cognitive functions. If he'd actually made a list of famous people that there were pictures of at least, and put them in those categories, that would have been empirical data. In which case he could have and should have put it forward as empirical data, because that's basically like a kind of fossil. So I have empirical data, or I believe myself to have it. So that's how you would present it. Again, are you people not realizing this? The question is it real or not? And a lot of you are even saying, yeah, it is real to some extent. Then it's empirical data! What is wrong with you? You are saying yourself by your own description when you are trying to criticize me as empirical data. Is it there? You're saying there's a good chance. Does it mean something? You're saying probably means something maybe profound. How profound, we don't know. How is it being known? Looking at it. That is empirical data. I'm sorry I'm not the one to educate you on this. Empirical data is not just stuff you like. Something being empirical data or not is different than something being true or not. Or different from where the empirical data came from. Like you have an epiphany in your head like Einstein did about falling through a space elevator. And that gives you equals mc squared. Fine. That's not empirical, that's theory. His predictions of what the various things in the sky were going to do that other people weren't able to do, that's empirical data. There's something there, probably means something, and he's pointing it out visually. With telescopes, but he's pointing it out visually. That's empirical. I can't believe I have to tell you what empirical data is. But apparently I tell you what an investigation is. Apparently I tell you what patentedly means. Apparently I have to define what perfectly lined up means. You realize even I'm correcting it. I'm actually striking it and saying go down. You're saying, really, I'd have to do that for it not to be perfectly lined up. Okay. I can't take you seriously. I don't take you seriously, and I take no one who read this and did not have red flag after red flag going off seriously. Because you're ridiculous. And I refuse to be ridiculous with you. He says here another place, is it real? In order to do this, we need to go down to the fundamentals of the theory and question the idea that the cues are somehow attached to the 16 category 8 function model of the psyche, which is suspiciously exactly like the basic math behind the Jungian function model, particularly function order and the MBTI model uses. I won't go into all this because it's just more repetition, but I will point out the following. Is it real? Can you all stay with me here? I hope I don't lose your puny little brains when I do this. Is it real? This is being said by a person who already said that there probably is something there, it may be profound, and it's visually observed. So the way you do it is visually observe it better. How would going down to the fundamentals of the theory, right there, fundamentals of the theory. The fundamentals of the theory are that you can see it. That's how you see it and base everything else on it. Like that's how you see there is something to base other things on. And you're even having the title of this conversation is it real? And you went with words. I told you this problem in the possession thing. You're going to try and say that the way you prove whether or not you already admitting you can see some of what I'm seeing in a limited fashion. And then the way to verify if this is real or not, as is or as expanded, is to talk about it. To talk about math stuff. No! If I'm showing you a track that may or may not be real going somewhere, and you're already saying yourself you think there might be something to it, you have to get better at tracking. You're not qualified to do what you're saying is the fundamentals. You don't have a lens. You gotta go borrow, build, beg, or whatever, a better lens. That's how you would know it's real. When Einstein showed those people they were stupid, how did he do this? He had a theory, but then he had visually observable data that says their predictions were off. That's how he did it. Now, if you're going to prove that Einstein is wrong, well, you can say stuff. Lots of people said stuff. No one gives a shit. No one cares. Do you know what they care about? Predictions in the natural world that Einstein's theories and calculations would lead you to. And then other people did experiments where it did not lead to that. Now, overall, his E equals mc squared has stayed very strong. But there are areas where it does not predict accurately what's going to happen. And that's how you prove where its limitations are, not by talking about it. People talked about the limitations of Einstein for decades. No one cares. Do you know why they did that mainly? So his incredible intellect didn't make them feel so small. So that he didn't actually be up here and most of the scientific community, all of it was down here. It was a huge gap. He made all of them look stupid pretty much. There's a few of them, but most of them he made look stupid. So they actually wanted to poke holes in this thing. And how did they do it? Even scientists, their personal weakness came into it. And they tried to say he was wrong by words. Words aren't how you show he's wrong, because that's not how he showed he was right. And then again, with his, D grade, Z grade detective work, which is suspiciously exactly like the math behind the Jungian function model. They have 4 energy fields. We have 5. They place introversion, extroversion, which correlates to us in some ways with subjective, objective, as the primary energy field. It runs everything. That is the one driver we can all agree on. And we don't. In pod layer, we do not agree with that because the observable data says is directive, adaptive. Exactly. Be careful with your words, man. So again, everyone, I have memory problems, I have issues, maybe I'm a jerk, maybe I'm overly dedicated to my cause, maybe I'm obsessive, maybe blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I don't use the word suspiciously exactly with 2 different numbers. 2 different driving premises and say, oh, they're exactly the same. They line up perfectly. All right. I hope in the other avenues of your life, when you're not so addled in your brain and so upset with a person, that you can actually think better than this. And if you actually want to help me and make me rethink my positions on things, you'll need to do it by not strawmanning me. That was a straw man. You can say a lot of things about it, but it exactly lines up. So you're saying 2 things: that I have copied, that's where I got my ideas from, and that it's exact. I didn't, but you can say I did, but I didn't. There's no way you can justify that they're the same in their thinking and the results. So, totally different theoretical premise on what drives everything, and totally different results. 30,000 or so samples categorized visually. Do better, man. I don't care personally, but for yourself, really, do better. This is not going to do well by you. He says, know yourself, grow yourself, seed the world. Genghis Khan. Okay. Oh, if that was a joke, haha, all right, fine. If I'm actually the egotist you say, and being compared to Genghis Khan would actually make me feel cool. So, fail on that end as far as a roast. And then you're mocking the concept of what? Know yourself, grow yourself, save the world? That's a great concept. Again, if you can separate yourself from Pod Layer and Mojo and your dislike of me, that's a good concept. That's a concept that's been expressed by a lot of wise, good people throughout history. I kind of, made it my own wording on that and so forth, but the sentiment is a very good, strong, noble, elevated one. And yet you mock it. Again, I don't like you right now. And I'm clearly tearing you up here because you're making just gross mistakes over and over again. But I feel no need to lie about you, and I feel no need to make fun of sentiments that you've expressed that actually have something to them. That lessens me. So all you did here was lessen yourself. I feel sorry for you. He says, here's Thomas in 2008 quoting material about Quink's in the grip concept. Yeah. I've also quoted stuff about Chinese face reading and chakras. I'm sure, how much do I owe to all the role-playing games that I did where they had the 4-character class system that reminded me a lot of what I'm seeing out here in people? And I put those connections together. Well, I think the 4 humors of the Greek medicine theory may line up with how these 4 character classes going. And? Really? Is that... I don't understand how you're thinking that you got me on this. Hey everyone, You know things we do about being locked up and so forth? There is things that, what's her name? Quinks, or whatever her name is, she actually wrote, right? But we disagree on certain things. For example, I don't agree with all of her stages. I also don't agree that it's only the polar power. I think it's very limited to look at it only as the polar power. You have to look at it as actually at least the offside and polar as far as what she's talking about, which is modulation keening. And then there's actually also over momentum or lack of momentum keening. So I disagree with how she did the polar a little bit. And I disagree that that's the main thing to focus on, that if you truly want to understand what keening means, you can't just wait to the big, harsh flare-ups of the polar power. You actually have to see how keening and stress lock and stress lock works for all four of your powers. So I corrected and expanded her work. And he says, the thing is though, what is this theory without the JCF framework? Correct. They got the primary dichotomy wrong. Falsifiable. I actually have a data collection based on physiological cues that people can actually go to a forum thread and say, I don't know if the cues are actually there in this one sample. Can you look in there again? Yeah. Okay, so what would it be? Better. That's what it'd be. He says, yeah, that doesn't seem to add up at all. Naiji was once the jack of all trades. Now Zenai have usurped that role. Again, this is you with your reliance on words and ideas in your head and not actually being able to back them up with observing reality. Because there's been plenty of times in history of, say, like studying animals, where they thought it was one animal doing something, but then it turned out that actually there were two different species. Or that it was actually another animal that was acting the way they hadn't expected, and that was what was responsible for the forest being in the state it is. It's just updating what you think you knew about the jungle and the creatures in it by latest data. Do you realize that? Right? You're saying like, whoa, it doesn't add up in my head. Yeah, you need to look at it first. You have to have a better lens. So you're trying to look at your fuzzy microscope that you can barely see what's on the slide, and trying to make sense of it, and then someone else has a better microscope and they go, oh, this thing says that the idea we were thinking is wrong is actually over here. What? And then your brain just pops. Yeah, you probably should stay out of the laboratory. He says, regarding Naiji lacking balls, according to Darius, he says, you might be onto something there. So in your state right now, you're indulging someone that I think most of you agree is just a hopeless troll. And then you're doing that to what? Just make fun of one of the qualia categories having balls or not? So you're just making fun of a given specialty within humanity, and it's fun to make fun of them. And you, by the way, are an IG, so you're also making fun of yourself. Is this your way to actually try to be cool and try to avoid anything getting on you? It's weak, man. I feel no sense of loss in not having you on my side. I feel a sense of relief, because this is what you would have to offer whenever the stressors of life come to us in waves. You would just cave, wipe out, and then lash out at everyone else for waves being waves and your sucky ability to stay on your surfboard. He says, notice how he constantly downplayed the influence of things like genetics, ethnicity, culture, conditioning, etc. Basically all those things competed with his framework. They don't compete. They are part of it. But no, they're not as important as the Mojo phenomenon. So let me break this down. Well, take genetics, that's separate. I've actually said that the Mojo phenomenon to me seems to be so pervasive and so repetitive that it has to have a genetic component. So no, me and genetics I believe are going to be quite close friends. Culture, conditioning, etc. Yeah, it is. All right. If you can see the phenomenon enough to see that there are such things as ZVI and JIV, then you can see that in male soccer teams, those are overwhelmingly the two quality categories that are represented. Tell me what is likely to be the amount of alcohol consumption of the soccer players. You are aware that some of them are alcoholics, some of them drink in moderation, some of them are teetotalers. What about their ethnicity? You are aware that there's a huge variety of ethnicities in all the different teams, and actually in individual teams they often have lots of ethnicities there. Ethnicities are not of the nation that the team is actually representing. What about if they came from fatherless families? I'm sure some of the soccer players did, some didn't. But that won't tell you anything as far as that, being soccer players. I can tell you that next year, we're going to look at the soccer teams. They're going to have a bunch of new players, and there's going to be a bunch of Ziva and Jaivi. That's power prediction. Are you going to be able to tell me how many of them are alcoholics? Are you going to be able to tell me if they are murderers or not? Are you going to be able to tell me what economic background they came from? Because some soccer players came from poor neighborhoods, other ones come from rich families. So no, there is no other influence on the human condition that gives that kind of predictive power. Not even close. Not even close. In fact, the only one that I would think could be that close would be genetics, and I believe genetics is going to support the Mojo phenomenon. All right, Gabe. I guess that's really all I have to say to you. I've addressed all your points. You can obviously disagree with them, think that I have dodged when I haven't. Again, I'm curious, if people thought I dodged his points here, or if I didn't get it. No, I dodged no points, and actually I showed on lots of things that are separate from Podlair, Mojo, or me, just simply that's not how the world works. He made several statements about how you get to be a king. Yeah, you do that by not saying it. A case is closed when there is very good explanations to the contrary. Things are exactly and perfectly lined up when they clearly are not. I'm curious if you all caught these things and if you care. Well, I'm curious in sort of an existential sense. I'm not curious enough to actually find out the answers from any of you, because what exactly people do who are not up to the task is not really something I want to be spending much of my time on anymore. I've spent enough time figuring out what you people can't do to know that you can't do what I need. So I'm moving on. All right, more to follow.